Fiscal Court business meeting to order, and this is February 27th, and I will ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Before we start into our agenda, I would like to have a moment of silence and ask you all to join me in memory of Mayor Everett Varney. I will always call him Coach. I was a 14-year-old young man in 1982 and was blessed to be able to run into Coach Varney, and I tried out for the basketball team, and I was promptly cut. My skills in ball handling and defensive stopper was not my title either. But Coach was very good to me, and he said, "You know what, Joe? We can use you in practice, and you stay around here and help us." And I just thought that was just struck me as, he was just a kind man. And from that opportunity, many other doors were open for me. But Coach Varney did that for so many people, and was just a golden human being, and served 3 terms as mayor, and made a big difference on our community. Helped push through the smoking ban in restaurants, helped build the police station and economic development issues he worked on. So we were blessed to have his leadership and his presence, but just blessed to have him as a human being in our community. And he's left a big impression, and he'll be missed dearly. We have a proclamation, and we're going to have it tonight, but we're going to move that over on to next week. His family had too many things going on tonight, so we'll move that over to next week and read that. So if you'll join me in a moment of silence with him, and if anybody else would like to make any mention before we do the moment, join me, please. Thank you all. Ms. Hamilton, will you call the roll?
Mr. Hostetler?
Present.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Wallace?
Here.
Mr. Corman?
Present.
Mr. Ellison?
Here.
Mr. Pratt?
Here.
Mr. Livingston?
Here.
Mr. Culbertson?
Here.
Judge Covington?
Present. We have a quorum, and we can conduct business. The first matter of business to consider are the minutes from our previous meeting. Are there any questions or comments related to those minutes as presented? Motion from Kelly Corman, second from Rick Hostetler. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, transfers as presented by our treasurer, Michelle Ray. Any questions or comments related to those transfers? Motion from David Livingston. Second from Rob Jones. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Bills and hand checks. Any questions or comments? That was submitted by email. Would there be a motion to approve? Motion from Rick, second from Dwayne. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. That leads us to our next item. And we were going to do these two things together with the proclamation being postponed. I'm going to go ahead and do a presentation. And I've been trying to do this for about 2 months, but I could not do it because of a variety of things. And I thought this was important to do. And I wanted to take the time to recognize Master David Livingston for his commitment of time and leadership at serving with Keiko. And that was not just a one-year commitment. That goes back about 5 years, doesn't it? And the countless meetings that he went to and participated in, but when he was there, we were there. And he gave us a seat at the table, and really very important for Scott County, to be plugged in on what's going on the state level. And it really helps guide things that we do here. So David, if you'll step out here. Surprise! We can't tell you.
You're always trying to make a first impression.
We had this ordered and was going to be here in time before the Christmas time, but Kentucky Correctional Industries, their machine broke, and it pushed us back. But with pride and gratitude, we honor Scott County Master David Livingston for his dedicated service as KCO President 2024. Thank you. No, appreciate it. Now, y'all want to come out and take
Oh, no, we're good, Judge.
All right, David is now officially president of the Has-Beens, and we can continue to treat him that way.
Not that it ever stopped.
Yeah. Now, next item number 8. David, do you want to say anything, by the way?
Like ask me if I want ice cream or something.
We're not at Rupp Arena, David.
I want to thank the court and previous courts that helped support me do this, because you actually have to be voted in to go through the chairs and become president one day. So I appreciate all of you all and your support, and then I appreciate my family's support because I'm still doing stuff. I leave at 6 a.m. to go to D.C. tomorrow for 4 days, and they've been very supportive through the years, allowing me to do it. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We appreciate that.
Government spelled wrong, though. Joking.
Oh,
Stacy is the best proof. Like Stacy really takes it serious, and that would not be good. But this next item is the museum repair masonry proposal, and we shared pictures. It's down there at the wall on Mulberry. JR and I've been down there several times. We put up 3 structural metal supports, but we don't believe this to be a structural issue. It is a brick tie issue. And when that wall was installed, that wall didn't get the 25-cent brick tie, and it's caused and allowed this to be pulled away, and it has to be repaired. And I think it's a tricky repair, and it calls for somebody that's got a lot of experience. And that's why I bring this from Gilpin Masonry. If y'all been on the west side in the last day or two, like what they're doing is really impressive. There's 2 options in this estimate. There's one to take the existing brick, clean that brick, and then put it back up. That's $38,000 and some change. There's another proposal that it'd be $38,750 to do that, and that includes reinstalling that ledger stone as well. That's in that picture that I shared with you all. The other option, and Emmanuel Gilpin, Mr. Gilpin shared, we could purchase new bricks that are matched to the existing, and like they matched really well for $35,500. So that's a savings of about $3,000. But it needs to be done in the worst of ways, and I wanted your all's input. And the money is in the budget. We're good there. We anticipated doing this, but would love some feedback from you all. And would anybody have any comment?
I think Gilpin has done some work before, haven't they?
They did the 1992 stonework renovation.
Yeah,
And I think Mr. Gilpin's father owned the business at that time, but now
well, this restoration is kind of their wheelhouse.
that is completely, and they have
I've always heard good things. I don't recall that we've ever worked around them, but we do mostly new work. So, but I think their wheelhouse is restoration.
they're all restoration.
Yeah.
Any other comment or?
Judge, it needs to be done, and if that's a motion, I'll make that motion.
For the, which one?
So I feel like back there, the call set, the mortar is kind of the issue, really, not sometimes the brick color, because you can kind of match it up. But I've watched this erode, but I think it's fine if we just use the lower.
The new brick?
Yeah, the new
You
brick.
make a motion to
Yeah,
approve
because they
it?
would have to clean that old brick, and
Yeah.
it's better off just using the new brick.
Second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Yeah, it's got some graffiti on it.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Next, Detention Center Quarterly Report. Jella Broyles is here with us, and Jella Broyles, appreciate you being here. And we also, after your report, we're going to hear from Jeff Lott, who's here with us, and some of your report probably is tied to him, so it's all good timing.
It is.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Judge. Good evening, magistrates. I've got the fourth quarter of 2024 report for you, starting out with the physical plant. As you know, we were working on a camera expansion down there. The camera expansion is complete. This gives us a much greater capacity to have the additional kind of layer of protection that cameras give us. We still go around, we still check on the inmates in person a couple of times an hour, but what this does is it just allows us that additional kind of oversight over them. We had, if you remember, we had a lightning strike that affected the jail maybe 6 months ago. We had Boyd Cat come in. They said that we did have to do some extensive maintenance on the generator itself. That was replacing belts and gaskets and fluids in it. But the actual major repair that needs to be done is not going to be able to be done for probably another 7 months. They've got the parts ordered, but literally it's going to take about 10 months for the parts to come in. And so that is on the control panel for the generator. That's not on the generator itself. And so we are manually kind of converting over and back with the generator right now. That expense will be in next year's budget, but that's going to be about $19,000 to $20,000 in repairs to get that. What they're going to do is basically gut that control panel and come back in and put all new workings in the
Is it your
control panel.
backup generator?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. So we can still, the generator, again, that's what we spent the money on last quarter to kind of bring it up to speed. This is not annual maintenance. This is like decade maintenance that was overdue to be done. So the generator's back in good shape.
Do you have a preventive maintenance contract with them to come and periodically?
No, it's just as needed. Yeah.
So, just a segue into another, but we've got these generators that we've installed, and I think in our next year's budget, and we should include yours.
Yeah.
Is just a preventive maintenance contract for someone to come and check them every 6 months or whatever the thought is. So I didn't want to interrupt you, but I thought it was a perfect time to mention that we need to do that.
I think that would be great. We do get it, if I remember right, they come out and inspect it once a year anyway. So anyway, but we don't have any kind of contract or agreement with them to do that. So that'll be in next year's budget. That's kind of tied in with the generator. We're fully staffed at this time. We've got 12 part-timers. That includes our maintenance position. Today, we've got about 114 in there. Inmates housed at other jails is 36. And the monthly highs for last quarter were for October, it was 139, November 136, and December was 134. The weather and several other factors played into us not getting the road crew working on the litter pickup the last quarter of last year. And so that has contributed also to, once the snow has disappeared, as it has in the last week, to really seeing how bad off some of our roads are. So we're working to get the road crew back out this quarter and get those roads. I've got a list down at the jail, and if you get any complaints or if you see something that needs to be addressed, absolutely reach out to me and we'll get it on the list, or if it's an emergency type thing, we'll scoot it up the list and get it taken care of. So the net device, that started last quarter, that started in December for us, and from all aspects that I can see, it has been very successful. I can't name a single negative aspect to using this. We've had 18 participants. 3 of them have taken themselves off of the net device once they started it, and that's for a variety of reasons, but it's not because they experienced any kind of difficulties or discomfort associated with the net device. Mainly it is they don't like the restrictions that we place on the participants using the net device. And as you know, as we've discussed, some of those restrictions are in place for their safety and the safety of other inmates. And so that's just something we can't budge on. But we've had 18, 3 have taken themselves off of it. We've had 7 that have gone on to rehab. We've got 5 that are still at SCDC for a variety of reasons. Can't make bond, waiting for grand jury. And so then we've got 3 that have been just released either out onto the street or to other holders at other counties. So we can't just hang on to them once they're done here in Scott County. If they've got a holder in another county, they need to move on to that county to get their charges taken care of in that county. Mr. Wallace.
So, and I think when we originally talked about this, I couldn't remember. Are they housed in with GP, or are they, okay, so they're in the separate unit all?
Correct.
All of them who are participating, they're all in their same unit?
That's exactly right. So I think Mr. Jones brought this up, but we've got one specific area that we were going to house them in, which is perfect for 1 or 2. If we happen to get above 1 or 2, then it gets tight and we've got to look for another space in the jail. But housing them together is not a great concern. But what generally they don't care for is the being isolated for the period of time that they're going through withdrawals, and that could be anywhere from a day or 2 up to 7 or 8 days. And so that's usually the crux.
But if they're participating, they can't be transferred to another jail. They have to stay housed in Scott County.
No, they can be transferred. So what I do is I work with the other jailers. For instance, if they need to make a court appearance, instead of maybe them getting transported, we can keep them at our jail but Zoom. And so I'm working with the other jailers that they may have to go to that jurisdiction for say a court appearance. I'm working on several different levels because the continuity of care, which I think Jeff may touch on, but they really need to stay there and they need to complete it there. You can't really break it, otherwise they have to start over.
Yeah, that's what I think that's what we need to be doing. Is keep going.
Yeah. So anyway, we do have a structure of following up with the individuals. It's a little bit difficult when they're in rehab to do this, but the individuals that are still at the jail, which is again 5, very positive, even today, checking in with them, very positive feedback. Obviously, it was positive feedback immediately going through the withdrawals they experienced. It was a much more tolerable experience for them. But 1 week, 2 weeks, 3, 4 weeks later, to not be experiencing the cravings, to have the clarity of mind, they're just very, every one of them are very excited for the prospect of where their life may be going right now. So I see those as successes so far. Now, granted, they're still incarcerated, so maybe I don't want to put the cart before the horse as far as saying it's a success. But so far, as far as them not experiencing cravings, it's successful. It has been successful with those. We have followed up with, and again, we're just getting started with the follow-up process for these individuals, but the individuals that we have followed up with, very positive feedback from them as well. So we have had, not all of them are success stories, we have had a couple go back to the life that they had before they came in. But I would say the majority, you've got 18 that have participated, 1 is currently on it, 7 of them are in rehab. They were successful, considered successful when they left our facility and went to rehab. The 5 that we have, we consider success stories just based on how they're feeling and the feedback we get from them. And so I feel like it is just a successful program, a great program, and I appreciate you guys, your willingness to try it out.
Let me, and Rick thought this would be a good idea, and we shared it with Cam. Cam thought it was good. We're not going to share the name of the individual inmate that sent this letter of thanks to my office, but I'm going to read it now. I want to thank Scott County Courthouse for sponsoring me for the NET device. It helped me a lot, and thanks to the Scott County Jail from the help with the rehab and getting my life on track. All the staff at the Scott County Jail helped me a lot. Thanks for the Scott County Courthouse, and I appreciate each one involved. Thank you. The NET device, for the first time, I feel free. I don't feel like if I can't make the supervision appointment, or it's the SUP appointment, I'm really not sure that. Maybe Jeff can help me with that, but indication that they're going to be safe. So, just, getting that letter of thanks and reading that for the first time they feel free from opioids and drug addiction. And I think we had testimony from a previous individual, Teddy, and he described it, I got rid of my ball and chain. Mm-hmm. And, I think this is a very positive thing, and it's giving people hope that had no hope.
Right.
I just wanted to read that while you were here.
Yeah,
and,
that's incredible.
Rick Hostetler.
Well, a couple other comments. You brought up Teddy. He calls me at about 6 o'clock every morning. He's on his first break at his job that he starts at 4 in the morning. So he's doing well, and he still talks about what the court did for him by paying for it, and so him, and then also, and I think I shared this. I can't remember if I did or not with everybody, but Channel 18 came to the detention center 2 weeks ago now, something like that, and they interviewed, of course, Jailer Broyles, but they also interviewed, I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but they interviewed 2 inmates that had just gotten done with the treatment. I think one of them was a young fella and a young lady, and I don't know if y'all caught it, but the young man that he talked basically the same thing that was in that letter, how he couldn't believe how the withdrawals were not bad or whatever, and then he said he didn't have any craving. And I don't know if you caught it, but one of the last things he said was, I don't even want to smoke anymore, cigarettes. And I think that's a byproduct of this treatment, because I've heard other people say the same thing. And then the young lady that was interviewed and shown on Channel 18, her little testimony was basically the same as that guy's, only she didn't talk about smoking, but about how she was able to, didn't have the withdrawals because she'd been through that before without any kind of help, the way she talked, and then she didn't have any cravings. And that's just 5 or 6 or 7 days from when they started the treatment. So it's pretty amazing.
Anything else, Joe?
No, I'm just, again, thankful that y'all were willing to try this particular program. Obviously, I've been in law enforcement for 25, 30 years, and I've arrested people that have gone to prison for several years, come back out and gone straight back to their drug of choice. And that's because I feel like these harder drugs really kind of rewire your brain to where that's what you want. You reprioritize stuff in your life, and getting high is your top priority. And my hope is that maybe, at least for some people, the NET device rewires it back to a normal kind of life for them.
Agree with
So,
you. Thank you. Any other comment or question from anyone for Jailer Broyles? We'll turn it over to Jeff Lott.
All right. I got a couple of slides. There we are. You can go on to the first one there. I'll hit some of this. Just the history to remind everyone. We first started talking in the summer of 23. At that point, we were discussing utilizing opioid settlement funds for research. We had not yet been cleared by the FDA, and any type of treatment that we would conduct would have to be done within the context of research for that reason. Ended up next spring from there that we got cleared by the FDA, and we no longer needed to do research. We could just treat people, and so not too long after that, we got a generous grant from you guys. You were one of the very first, if not the very first county, to give us a chance. In December, we started treating at the detention center. You can see in February, just a couple weeks ago, we have our first in Frontiers of Psychiatry. That's a peer-reviewed kind of scientific research journal. Had our first paper published there. That should go a long way to help more of the scientific-minded community to help combat maybe skepticism. I know it's the skepticism gets less and less as we hear more and more stories and have more and more people treated and get more and more data, but that's something that if you know anyone who is skeptical, that'd be a great piece to show them, especially if they're really into research and data. It's too much for me personally. I'm not
Is that
that
February
smart.
25, Jeff?
I'm sorry?
February 25.
Yeah. Man, messed that up. That is. It was 2 weeks ago, so February 25. Yeah, Frontiers in Psychiatry. And then today, the status, he mentioned 18, but there's also some that have gone through Isaiah House's program we treated. And so out of the 34 treatments that you guys generously sponsored, 28 of them have been completed or in the process of being treated. You can go on to the next slide. This is a little graph. It gets a little muddy if you start putting too many people, but this is 12, I think, people out of the 18. On the vertical axis, you'll see numbers. It's probably kind of hard to see. I'm sorry. But the higher the number, you can think the more discomfort a person is in. That scale goes up to 60. We ask 28 questions that get scored 0 through 3. 0 means that symptom is non-existent. 3 would mean severe. Of course, 2 is moderate. 1 is minor. And so we track that twice a day. And this is just showing 12 out of the people that were in the jail. You can see their withdrawal symptoms go down mostly. There's a couple of spikes. I think that it's normal on some substances to have day 2 kind of go up. That one you see there, you can kind of see the number 42 here. This patient in particular actually was feeling pretty good and wanted to stop, maybe one that didn't want to be in isolation, and probably against our recommendation because they weren't quite low enough yet, took it off, shoot back up, put it on again, and got him down into the good zone there. So that's what's happening there. But this just shows kind of what a little graphical representation of what we're doing in terms of withdrawal symptoms.
And that's all based on that questionnaire.
Yeah, those 28. It's based on what they tell us.
Yeah,
We
and
ask them.
Direct feedback.
Yeah, we ask them 28 questions every time.
Yeah.
On is this existent, minor, moderate, severe? Headaches, nausea, diarrhea. I don't know them all, but
That one client, I mean, the correlation of that going up and then going back down, I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty
they,
evident.
They took it off, for that probably less than 24-hour period, but yep. Next slide. And this is just a little bit of our spread. I believe y'all were our first, but we now have 10 county partners, 2 city partners. Y'all were our first detention center, but we have 2 more that have signed on, and we're not yet operating in them, but we will be soon. Yes, sir.
Jeff, so when we originally started looking at how we were going to spend these funds, there was a question on the state level, and Karen Butcher from Georgetown was representing, kind of a representative, but she was from Georgetown that was on the state committee. We had our own money, the state had their own money, and my question is has the state, have they moved toward partnering with you all? And I know you're talking about the counties and the detention cities.
Yeah.
Has the state at any point come toward working with you all where we were kind of out, really we're on the island by ourselves with a few other counties that we went this direction? I think it's paid off, but
I think so too.
can you give us an update on where you are with the state?
I can. So we applied for a grant from the state in 23, I believe, and they denied it.
You mean the first time? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
They denied it. It wasn't exactly clear why. We got official response that wasn't clear. We got other answers. I don't know. But the bottom line is that we were not yet FDA cleared, and I think that made them uncomfortable. Yes, sir.
But at that time as well, there was a big focus on the state level to look at
Ibogaine. Yep.
Yeah.
and
Yep.
we've had conversations
Which
about
is not FDA approved still today, but
that was a big focus, and I don't believe that Ibogaine still remains
a big
focus at the state level.
No. The new attorney general coming in, we've met with him a couple of times. He seems like he's very interested in it. We have made a second application to the state. We just submitted that less than 2 months ago, so they can take a long time for those types of things. So we have asked again, now that we're cleared by the FDA and that we have a little bit more data and a little bit more evidence and a little more anecdotes. So we'll see. But the answer is we don't know yet.
Yeah.
The counties have really stepped up where the state was more hesitant. And one of the things I was going to get to in a minute is, or I guess I can get to it now, is you heard from Jailer Broyles. Our staff's very pleased with especially how things have been going in the jail. We feel like we're giving a lot of hope to people who have previously had none. We've used 28 of the 34 treatments, so there's still more to come. But I did want to put the idea in your head that, at some point, we'd like you to consider perhaps sponsoring some more.
Well, that's where my head was, Jeff,
Yeah.
and that's why I was trying to find out where the state was
Yeah.
in their money, as well as I believe there's another lawsuit out there, Judge.
So the Kroger settlement is
Yep.
in processing.
Yeah.
We've not been awarded any funds from that settlement as yet, but we will realize some settlement funds from that. And then, we have, these payments are spread out over time.
Yeah.
And we do have a balance of funds that I could share with the whole court. You all could consider whatever request that Jeff makes, and then maybe we could talk about it next week at our work session.
Sure.
I'd also like to look at talking with the city. I don't know if they have ARPA funds, but I don't know why we couldn't do it interlocal.
They have some opioid settlement funds. The city of Georgetown
I said
does.
ARPA. Okay, whatever. Some
Their
funds.
level of funding was not at the level that we are, but I don't know if they've allocated any of their opioid settlement funds as of yet.
Would it be nice to come together?
I'd be more than happy to facilitate that conversation with Jeff.
I assume at least one of those people in your detention centers from the city of Georgetown.
Yeah.
Woodford County could be an example. The city of Versailles has utilized some of theirs. They just voted maybe yesterday or last week. They're kind of combining their funds with the county of Woodford, and they're going to enter an agreement with us. So,
But Ryan, I'll reach out to Mayor and Devin and try to loop in Jeff and see if there's interest in that.
Just like we could do more for more people, more cooperation.
yeah, I think they have spent some money, of course, not with the net folks, but like we have with paramedicine. I think they've done something like that. I remember.
I'm just not aware if they expended.
I'm not for sure,
Yeah.
but I think they've done a little something like that.
Jeff, can you tell us what other two detention centers?
yes. Meade County, we're going to go into their detention center, and Franklin County last night voted to get us in their detention center. So,
Yeah.
just got to work out some paperwork.
Rick?
But
I know Jeff's aware of this, but I've been contacted by several counties in the last several months. But one of them was Bell County. I've been texting back and forth with Magistrate Hammondtree. He's I don't know how his whole court feels, but he's very much looking into this, and he's looking at some of the results that Jeff has been sharing, I'm sure, and and quite a bit of interest from a lot of detention centers, I think. Jailer Broyles was.
Have you had any jailers reach out to you, Jailer Broyles?
Yeah, I have, and actually I had a magistrate or a city council person from Jefferson County reach out to me earlier this week or the end of last week, which would be really huge. I mean, it's the largest jail in the state, and he's interested in doing exactly what you all are doing here, using opioid settlement money. They haven't used any of it for this exact program in the jail. So, but I've also had, probably Franklin County came over and visited about 3 weeks ago and went through specifically what we do, the process, the paperwork, and showed them where we house them and how we were set up. So their jailer and their chief deputy came over 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I've talked to probably about 5 other jails about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's in some ways, you know, certainly not trying to badmouth anyone, more just to elevate you guys. You know, we would have hoped that maybe the state would have taken more of a lead, or some of the bigger counties, but they weren't, frankly, willing to take the risk, and y'all were, and I think you should get the credit now. So that's more than sharing this information. I really want to say thank you and say you should all feel, I don't know if vindicated is the right word, but you should be proud of yourselves.
Well,
you took a risk, and I think you should get the credit now, because more and more people are starting to want to jump on the bandwagon, and you did it when nobody else would. So,
Well, I'm grateful for the partnership, but what I'm most grateful for is the people that are having the positive impact.
Yeah.
That's the story, and that's the message. And then, you know, that community talks, and I hope that word of mouth within that community talks about, hey, you need to consider this, and it's a positive thing. And
Jeff, what kind of capacity type of restraints do you have? You know, like how, you know, if you start getting bigger, you know,
I
throw
understand.
Jefferson in there,
Right,
you know,
right.
It's like how do you even keep up?
we're what's the word? I can't think of it. We're agile. It would not be difficult for us to double or triple or even quadruple in size in a short amount of time.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah. So the other option I was going to say is, while we asked the state for a grant, I think that's another option for counties themselves to go to the state and say, hey, we've been using this, we ponied up our own money, and it's working. Like, will you help subsidize some of this? So that might mean more coming from one of their local jurisdictions than me, right? So another option to consider.
maybe
for
that's
future
something we
funding.
can talk about as well.
Yeah. But you look like you want to say something.
I do. So
I can't believe that, Jeff.
Well, I want to say one other thing about Jailer Broyles and his staff. I think, I don't know all the ins and outs, but I think they're doing a lot of follow-up on their own, if I'm not mistaken, which is much needed. The folks in the world of addiction and that community, they're at all levels, but most of them have burnt a lot of bridges, if not all of them. And they don't have family members that are willing, whatever. They don't have a community of support. And sometimes it's the jail staff, as I'm finding out, because I'm hearing about it. As you all know, I've shared before, my wife and I are continuing to stay active, and we're trying to find folks and help folks, because I want to see them be productive citizens, and which takes the burden off our police departments, sheriff's departments, jails, the whole ball of wax. When you can get somebody off of addiction and back on their own, and Teddy doesn't mind, I'll use him as an example. He's 45 years old last month. He finally has for the first time ever, his own apartment. He was never able to accomplish that. He has a really good job. It's got a lot of opportunity, and he's still in a probationary period, but all the indications are from folks that I've talked to, they really like him. So, but I will tell you this, a lot of his success was, first of all, Jesus Christ, and then the device, and then support from me and Donna, because he burned all his bridges. He'll tell you that. And so, so all of these folks down the road still need that. And I'm appreciative of our jailer and his staff, because I've heard the stories how they're kind of taking their own time to go follow up with these folks. I think it's pretty incredible and
What about
much
the
needed.
other groups that follow up with folks like Brimley and those groups with, the OD side of things?
Chris,
Do we have, are we?
Could you comment
are we
about-
being able to jump in on this side of things as far as the follow-up side?
and then I
I know it's kind of a different.
you beat me to the punch, but I was going to ask Jeff the same kind of question. Like, here at the first of the week, could you email us and I'll share just like how we, how we're trying to stay, connected with these individuals and what continuum of care services are we offering and through the Isaiah House maybe and maybe you could share that. We could do that. But back to Dwayne's question about community paramedicine and Brandon.
Yeah, so any overdose that comes out, Brandon will respond with the crew. Initially, he doesn't go emergent, but he's there for the follow-ups because typically those folks don't want to be transported. So he's there, right after the incident. Then he will go out later with the victim advocates from Georgetown PD. He'll go out and visit. It's probably, they're going to be more receptive after the fact than they would just as, if they
Would he
wake
be
up-
catching this set of group, though, from the detention center? Probably not,
He's-
right?
No.
Yeah.
But could in the future Brandon potentially say, here are some resources that include the net device?
Yeah,
That's it.
Is
Just
that
seems
kind of
like
where
the same
you're?
type of thing, like
Is that kind of where you're going?
yeah.
Yeah.
somehow marry the effort?
Absolutely.
So maybe we could
Yeah,
connect.
I mean, his recommendation would take them right to Jeff, phone call away, right? If Brandon is counseling with someone, because that's kind of what he's doing, right?
If Brandon could connect them with the liaison that's
Right,
here,
straight, right.
right directly.
Yeah, right. I said Jeff, but yeah, it'd be Rebecca.
Jeff's eyebrows went up.
You're using me to represent our organization.
Right.
Did that answer your question, Dwayne? Thank you, Chris.
Well, I don't have anything else. I'm just going to say thank you and just putting the bug in your mind for the future. We're not done yet. We still have 8 more people to go, but those slots will be used within the next couple of months. So just trying to get you to think about the future and
So could you send just kind of like what you would propose, and then also like, what the continuum of care and how you are trying to track and connect these individuals to continuing services with the Isaiah House.
Okay. So yeah, I can speak briefly about that.
And then maybe Isaiah House send us additional information too.
Yeah.
And we could reach out to them.
So if you look at addiction as a pie, it's my belief that we as a society have figured out, and we do a very good job of the counseling aspect, the job training, dealing with trauma, how to give someone tips on how to handle their finances, how to interact socially in a way that's appropriate, how to maintain healthy boundaries, all those types of things. We've figured all of these things out really well, but there's one slice of a pie that I feel like no one's figured out until apart from the net device, to be frankly, and that is how can you get a person past the physical part of addiction, the cravings and the withdrawals, without just simply having to give them more drugs. And the net device is the only thing I know of that actually does a good job of that. And so that's what we focus on. We don't focus on those other things. It's not because we don't think they're important. We think they're extremely important. It's more that we think there's a lot of people who already do those other things very well, and so we don't need to reinvent the wheel there. We're sticking with the thing where we thought there was a gap. So to answer your question plainly, we don't actually try to help get them connected to services, but we, in as much as trying to get them signed up with a specific organization. If they're in Isaiah House, then we trust that that's part of what they do. That's why we partner with them, is because they do a great job of that. But our focus is on helping the people there and in all these detention centers, and in the future as many places as we can do it, get past that physical craving getting through those withdrawals and getting that clarity of mind to say, hey, I don't in fact have to take a pill or do drugs for the rest of my life. I actually have hope that I will not be dependent on it in that way. So does that make sense?
No,
I might have misunderstood your question.
No. What I would like to see is, like, your all's focus is dealing with that addiction piece, the cravings, and the net device does that.
Yeah.
What to me, kind of a part of the conversation needs to be, hey, we can help you here.
Yeah.
But are you interested in having support from some other partners?
I see.
And can I give you your name to this organization and they'll reach out, or do you want to reach out to them? That's what I'm just trying to, like, connect the dots for people that have a history of struggling connecting the dots.
I gotcha.
That's and
kind
you all focus on your focus.
It might be us having to do that, though. It might be we happen to work with the jail,
and you do.
But
and
we need to be supporting you more to do that, though.
And that's great, Jeller. And I was just making sure that we, and it's us, you and all of us in county government, are trying to connect those dots for those folks. And you know, Rick has been a perfect example of a support for the individual Teddy. But those 18, 17 others, who's their Rick? And who's their, is the Isaiah House? Can we help them connect with whatever entity? And it sounds like you're doing that with Isaiah House.
Yeah, the way I look at it, it's kind of a 1-2 punch. First punch is the net device. Second punch, if they're open to it and if we can get them into it, is rehab. And so we do a post-treatment assessment questionnaire that we go over with the individual, and part of that questionnaire is, are you interested in participating in rehab? And if they are, then we do an Isaiah House assessment immediately on them. We send that to Isaiah House. They don't even have to come in, and we're forwarding that. And again, this is part of the money that you all have put up for this. I mean, you all have put up the money for the first punch, the net device. You all have put up the money from the opioid settlement money for the second punch, the rehab. And I think the net device is great, and I think it's effective for a lot of people. But I think if we want to have a more complete impact on the individual, that they really need the net device and they need to follow it up with rehab. So we send that assessment to Isaiah House. They go ahead and craft. First, they determine whether that person is a good fit for their program, and then they craft a program for that individual. Could be residential, could be outpatient, could be 30-day, 60-day. But then we have worked, and I have worked with the judges and with the public defender's office to actually move some of these individuals, because I do think the sooner they can enter rehab after using the net device, the more effective it will be. And so I've worked with the judges and public defender's office to get some of the individuals that have successfully completed this program in our jail into Isaiah House. And we're using another rehab program as well in the state. So anyway, we do exactly that, Judge, at the jail.
I just thank you very much.
Real quick, Darren. So
Yeah.
I guess I just want clarity on that. So if Isaiah House says, or for whatever reason, it's not a right fit for that individual, we're sending them to someplace else, or hopefully they're going.
Yes. And as a matter of fact, Isaiah House, for instance, we had somebody that did not. Isaiah House is only in a handful of counties in the state, and this particular individual, in my opinion, great success story from the net device aspect of it. They did not want to travel far to the outpatient services that Isaiah House offered. So what Isaiah House did is they hooked them up with another rehab facility to get those services closer to their home. And so the Isaiah House has been very helpful with helping individuals that maybe if Isaiah House is not a good fit for them, another facility. And the other facility we're using is one that they have helped. We had one 2 weeks ago that Isaiah House was not a good fit for them, but hey, there's this other opportunity. The individual was interested in it. We could go through the courts and get them placed in there, and it worked out.
Do we have any of the individuals choosing not to go to, have we had any, say, I'm not going to, I know there's 3 here released, but, or 3 remove themselves, but do we have any of them that have went through the process of the net device, then choose not to do the follow-up with Isaiah House or whoever?
Yes, yeah, we've had a couple.
And do we know if they've been successful? I mean, you can be, I guess.
Right,
I mean,
yeah, so we're just starting in that follow-up process,
Okay.
Dwayne.
Yeah.
And so I can
I
let
was
you
just
know.
curious.
Yeah, I can
Sorry.
let you know next time I
Yeah.
come, follow-ups for those individuals, how they're doing that did not take kind of the second punch, the rehab aspect of it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
That's my question, is how long are we, of the 28, how long are we tracking these people?
I'm just gonna start.
So, speaking from the jail standpoint, we're reaching out to them post-incarceration, so when they leave our facility, we're reaching out to them 7, 14, 21, and 30 days, and then we're scheduled, we haven't gotten this far yet, but we're scheduled 3, 6, 9, and 12 months to reach out to them.
That's good.
Great. Rick Hostetler, he's dying to.
That goes back to, that's a lot of work for you guys, and it's very commendable. And what you mentioned, I was sitting there thinking, you were talking about the 1-2 punch. I'm hesitant to call this a punch, but you've already mentioned it. You're working with the circuit, district judges, family court judges, because I think that's an important piece for our community. I mean, they cover 3 counties.
Right.
And as this thing picks up some traction, I don't know how many of them are knowledgeable of the device or what's going on with it. Have you had much interaction there or had opportunity? I know you've been trying to.
I'm sorry, can you clarify the
Well,
question?
with our district circuit judges, I mean, they're interacting with with the inmates, and they've got some say-so. Are they aware of what's going on with the net device?
They are aware of it. We don't have all the kinks worked out as far as interacting with one another yet. But I was working on an email before I came up the hill tonight to the judges about the net device, and we've got a kink in the system that we need to try to iron out.
Well, I want to be clear. I'm not looking for a get out of jail free for anybody.
Right.
I'm
I
sincere
agree.
about that. But
I agree.
I've heard many times from this court in the past and from you that we can't incarcerate ourselves out of this addiction problem.
You're right.
But some folks that are hung up in that deserve to be incarcerated. I'm not saying they're not, but just being able for all the parts and pieces, the wheels to be rolling the same direction, that would be one of them. Our district and circuit judges and family court judges, and you know how that can be, how their knowledge of that and their knowledge of, they know these folks need follow-up care already without the net device. They already know that. So I just wondered if you were able to make that mesh, or if there's anything we could do to try to just kind of get the word out so that everybody understands what this opportunity is.
They are all for sure familiar with the program. I wouldn't say we've completely meshed, because everybody's got their own way that they've been doing everything. And so we're trying to get all of us on the same sheet of music, kind of moving in the same direction.
That's
Not
why I
there
didn't
yet,
want to.
but-
That's why I didn't want to call it the third punch.
Right. Right.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it, and we'll continue to move forward and look for sharing a proposal from Jeff. Thank you all. Chris, EMS new hire.
Good evening, Judge, Magistrates. I'd like to recommend Seth Heil as a full-time EMT. He would start on March 17th, and his initial hourly pay would be $14.53.
Questions or comments?
What's that do for your staffing?
I knew that was coming.
Brings us to full, but we have promotions middle of next month, so the trickle down will leave one spot open.
Motion and a second from Rob Jones. Motion from Rick. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? While Chris is up there, we have been out at the EMS station this week on a construction update. Progress is being made. JR's been out there, and they are. I feel good about the first week of April. JR, you're shaking your head still affirmative, aren't you? So they're moving forward, and that building looks nice. And Chris has been through it with me, and we've been out there multiple times.
Yeah.
Baby box is going to be in
Hopefully middle of next week.
Middle of next week,
That's what they
get
told
that
me this morning.
installed. Just a follow-up, but just wanted to give that update that there's positive movement there, so. Is that Magistrate Eeyore down there? Now.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Planning Commission appointment, Sadieville area seat. Holden's here this evening with us, and I shared some names with you all, and 3 names, and I think Holden spoke to all 3 of them as well. And it's very important to me that Holden have a relationship and be able to, just have some clarity about who they'll be working with, and I thought it was healthy for him to be able to give them a call. Any comments or questions about the names that were shared?
Judge, I don't know them all, but I am impressed that one of them is a young man, his early 20s he put on there, and that he'd be interested in getting active at that age and this kind of a thing. That's pretty cool. But I know one of the ladies real well, but I've also talked with the mayor, and of course the mayor and commissioners, they're going to be working. So the lady that they would like to see, if the court so desired, would be Melissa Adair, and so I'll make that as a motion.
And I spoke with this lady yesterday. It's one of the 3 that I was able to get a hold of, and I was really impressed with her commitment to Sadieville, because she spent some time in the Sadieville community working down there. So I'll second that motion.
So that's a second, and I was going to, Rick and I spoke before, and I had spoken with Mayor as well. And I had invited the mayor to come to court or send an email, and I think they've spoken. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. And then moving there to number 13, Resolution 2503, Keiko Auto Lease Agreement. As this was shared, this particular vehicle was omitted in the packet, and we just need to physically do this resolution to get this included. It is not a new vehicle. It's just a piece of paperwork that we have to include, and it was omitted from Bachman. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain those and ask Michelle to help me answer those if needed, or Stacy. David, do you have a question? Well, we're going to read the resolution.
All right. Resolution 2503, a resolution approving a lease for the financing of a project, providing for the payment and security of the lease, authorizing the execution of various documents related to such lease, and making certain designations regarding such lease. Whereas the governing body of the Scott County Fiscal Court, the lessee, has the power, pursuant to Section 65940 et sec of the Kentucky Revised Statutes, to enter into lease agreements with or without the option to purchase in order to provide for the use of the property for public purposes. Whereas the governing body of the lessee, the governing body, has previously determined and hereby further determines that the lessee is in need of the project as defined in the lease hereinafter described. And whereas the governing body has determined and hereby determines that it is in the best interest of the lessee that the lessee enter into a lease agreement, the lease, to be administered by Kentucky Association of Counties Leasing Trust, the program administrator, and funded by Kentucky Association of Counties, as selected by the lease upon the advice of the program administrator, the lessor, or the leasing by the lessee from the lessor of the project. Now therefore be it ordered and resolved by the Fiscal Court of the Scott County Fiscal Court, Section 1, Recitals and Authorization, the lessee hereby approves the lease agreement substantially in the form presented to this governing body. It is hereby found and determined that the project identified in the lease is public property to be used for public purposes. It is further determined that it is necessary and desirable and in the best interest of the lessee to enter into the lease for the purposes therein specified, and the execution and delivery of the lease, and all representations, certifications, and other matters contained in the closing memorandum with respect to the lease, or as may be required by the lessor prior to the delivery of the lease, are hereby approved, ratified, and confirmed. The judge executive and the fiscal court clerk of the lessee are hereby authorized to execute the lease, together with such other agreements or certifications which may be necessary to accomplish the transaction contemplated by the lease. Section 2, administration of the lease. The Kentucky Association of Counties Leasing Trust is hereby acknowledged to be the program administrator under the lease. Section 3, severability. If any section, paragraph, or provision of this resolution shall be held to be invalid or unenforceable for any reason, the invalidity or unenforceability of such section, paragraph, or provision shall not affect any of the remaining provisions of this resolution. Section 4, Open Meetings Law. The governing body hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the adoption of this resolution were taken in an open meeting of the governing body, and that all deliberations of this governing body and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements. Section 5, conflicts. All ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict with the provisions of this resolution are, to the extent of such conflict, hereby repealed, and the provisions of this resolution shall prevail and be given effect. Section 6, effective date. This resolution shall take effect from and after its passage and publication of a summary thereof, as provided by law. Done today, the 27th of February. I didn't write it. Yeah, say that.
Who's on first? Questions or comments? And David, motion. Second from Rick Costello. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Can we change Cam's middle name to Leslie or Lesser? Leslie or
Leslie reading, right?
So we will now have a solid waste management annual update from Jared Holland, who has been at training in Louisville for solid waste coordinators. Jared?
Good evening, Joe Pat. This time I'll go over the first category. It was the litter abatement program where we picked up litter throughout Scott County. This was utilizing a $55,000 grant that we received from the Division of Waste Management. And this year we picked up 5,200 bags of trash, and that was done by the Godfather and his crews, Swartz Contracting, and Jailer Boyles and his staff, and Chief Bruin in the city of Georgetown. So it was a very big group effort. That is a lot of trash. We hope to improve that. That's not a number that we want to see to keep growing, but as we grow, we know these things happen. But I just want to thank all of them for their very hard work and making this, definitely keeping our roads clean. Next category, we had State Division of Waste Management we had our annual tire collection event, and thanks to Jailer Boyles and his staff, and then also too throughout the year, JR and his crews, they find tires everywhere too. But we collected 21,000 tires, and it's always good to.
How do we have 21,000 tires? Right.
So Jared,
Yeah.
Dwayne, so part of this is farmers. A big thing. Farmers will
Just keep them forever, and then bring
and
them
then they we advertise this date, and it's a big event.
Yeah, you're right, Judge Covington. It is a lot of the farming community because this event happens every 3 years. So a group can,
So that's 3 years
can
worth. Okay.
Yes,
Gotcha.
it's built up every 3 years.
But
All right, so the next, go ahead.
Wow. I was just going to say, does the Toyota, when they do the Toyota yearly, do they take tires then?
No.
They don't do tires.
Tires are a tough animal, and that's.
And like I said, the bulk of it comes this 3-day event that we had this year. But like I said, JR and his crews, he'll tell you that they find them all the time. So they've never gone away. I'll be honest with you, my time with the county, I never thought we'd always be addressing tires, but we do every single year. So the next category was we collected 120,000 pounds of hazardous and e-waste. The bulk of that came from the Super Recycling Day at Toyota, and we're very thankful for Toyota because this ensures that we're disposing hazardous chemicals, paints, and other electronics in a proper fashion. So we're always thankful of their partnership in the city of Georgetown. But I can tell you this, Toyota does the heavy lifting, the labor, and the majority of the cost. So thank you to Toyota as always. All right, the next category this year through curbside recycling, the Rumpke Community Recycling Center, we collected over 1,500 tons of recyclables, and most of that's your cardboard, aluminum cans, paper, and your single stream items. And one of the good things in that category, they have free access to that 6 days a week. And then every citizen in Scott County has access to curbside recycling if they choose to do so. So that's actually, a pretty good strength of our community. All right, and the next category is the Rumpke Transfer Station. It's the voucher program that you and the city help fund. It is growing. We had over 1,600 transfer station visits. So that does help us, and it helps people when they have to do some spring cleaning, or like what we see a lot of times, some children kind of come back to the community and they're cleaning out a loved one's residence. It gives them an access to be able to quickly remedy that situation. So that program's going very strong. We thank the partnership with Georgetown and Rumpke, of course.
And Jared
Yes.
Jared and Stacy can share that, one of the number one phone calls on a daily basis. I don't think a day goes by that we don't get a call about how do I get my trash voucher. I mean, isn't that true, Stacy?
Multiple a day, and a lot of times Jared will, you can tell if somebody needs assistance getting through the website system, and he'll help.
Yeah, the majority of people can utilize the website. There's some folks that, don't feel comfortable with the website, and that's okay. That's why we're in the office, and I actually down here in Louisville, Karen and Stacy will give me my messages, so we don't miss a beat. We make sure we service them when we're out of training. So it seems to work really good. So.
But older folks, Jared walks them through and helps them navigate it. So I appreciate that effort. What's your other category, Jared?
Well, the last category, Judge Covington, is I got to give all the credit to the Amen House and Michelle Carlisle. The fiscal court did approve a spot in the county that they can store a trailer, and then periodically that trailer gets full, and then Michelle contracts a group out of New York, and this past year, she and the Amen House recycled 102,000 pounds of clothing, and they actually also get paid for that. So that's pretty awesome. And that was all Michelle. That was her research, and she's, like I said, getting some money for their budget. So I want to commend her on finding that program, and really kind of put Scott County ahead of a lot of other counties. That's a lot of places having started really concentrate on recycled clothing yet. So good job by the Amen House, Michelle. So does anybody have any questions?
I think that
what do they do with the clothing? When
they bale it. Well, they sort it,
Yes.
and one of the things of their new, their new place there where MLS Power Sports is I think that'll be able to increase what they do, because they're going to get this volume of clothes, and they sort it, and if it's not up to standard, then they'll bale it out at behind 2200 Cincinnati Pike in that building that.
But then when a company gets it baled, what do they do with it? I wonder.
They somehow turn it back into the product. I mean, they take the threads and they definitely make it work.
See how this is patched together right here?
Google.
Yeah. So, Jared, thank you for this information. Any other questions for Jared? And I think this is great. And I want to point out, we used to have a significant budget allocation for our recycling center and those efforts, and we are navigating that. And I think we're being good stewards of tax dollars. We're navigating this privately, and support for the Amen House. They're helping themselves by taking this on, and they're helping us keeping stuff out of the landfill and such. So, Jared, anything else you'd like to share? I appreciate your efforts.
Joe, Brad, not really on that, but I'd just like to make two other real quick comments. First of all, I'd like to congratulate David on his service for our county with ACO and being president this past year. I know it's a lot of hard work, but thank you, David. And then Judge Covey, just kind of echo you comment on Mayor Barney. back in 2003 when I first got started in service in Scott County. He took a very young, stumbling around mayor, and he helped me tremendously. And I think Mayor Barney had many hats. A lot of people knew him as coach, but I'll always remember him as mayor, and I will definitely miss him. So.
No, 100%. So thank you, Jared. Be careful up there in Louisville now.
Hey, and real quick, this is Dr. Walter's favorite sports town, so I just want to show that.
Bunch of dirty birds running around up there.
Yeah, maybe a few.
All right. Thank you. Be careful. New business. Moving on to number 15. No one has any other questions on solid waste management update. I've got the CCBIP, the city county or the county city bridge improvement program application was submitted by for Mount Horeb, and very glad to have that submitted. Appreciate your all support. But 2 days ago, JR and I got a call, and we did another conference call with Coy Jones from KYTC, and he requested that we close North Race Fork bridge down there. And JR suggested, hey, Joe Pat, what do you think about having H&B go on out there and do a preliminary assessment? Well, Rob Dallard called this afternoon, and Rob Dallard would like to propose, and I would like to recommend to the court. Rob thinks we can get this application finished by the close of business tomorrow because it's just replacing the superstructure of the bridge, not replacing the whole bridge. And JR, correct me if I'm right, the superstructure is the bed of the decking. So we're not having to get into geotech. We're not having to do that. So Rob proposes H&B a $5,000 application fee, and then another $31,000 in structural design surveying once the project is funded through CCBIP. The cost for this bridge is estimated at $370,000 to replace the superstructure. And I would ask you all to approve me to authorize HMB to move forward with that CCBIP application for North Race Fork. I know our citizens in northern Scott County would appreciate us moving forward with trying to get it fixed.
How long are we looking at?
We're dependent on KYTC,
Sure.
but going on and proving this, and Rob getting it in by the end of business tomorrow, we won't have to wait till, I think that JR, the other round, the third round of funds goes through the end of May, maybe. Yeah.
So if it gets the funding, then it triggers all the stuff to start happening, I guess.
KYTC has to process all these applications, and I don't have clarity on their timeline to get back with us, but I'd say within 3 or 4 months we'll know. Don't you think, JR?
Are we talking a year before these things? I mean,
no. If we get notice from them, approval of the application, we'll turn HMB loose and move as fast as we can.
Same thing for the Mount Horeb.
The Mount Horeb, same thing for the Mount Horeb.
I'd make a motion for the $5,000 application fee, and if awarded for the. Are we doing if awarded now, or are we doing that later?
You're authorizing me to move forward with H&B to do the application. It's $5,000 application to put the application together, and all the follow up, and then up to $31,000 for structural design surveying if it's awarded.
Yes, and then also in that motion, I would like to state to please quit driving over our bridges so we don't have to do this anymore.
So we have a motion. Second. Any other questions or comments?
Who was second?
Rick Hosteller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all for being open to that, and I appreciate HMB as well.
Yeah, Judge, I got, for the other court members, I got to hear part of that phone call.
Yeah.
That gets us right in the till. I mean, tomorrow it will happen, and it has to cut the timeline down, just because.
Other thing is, I did want to report to the court that Rick and I went to Sadieville 2 days ago and met with Norfolk Southern representatives along with the mayor of Sadieville. Talked about how to, and Mike was there as well, and some other individuals. Just talked about communication, how moving forward that what we could do to improve communication if in fact there's a issue like the train derailment, and we were blessed beyond measure that it wasn't worse than it was. No one was hurt, nothing hazardous, very minimal property damage. So that was a productive meeting. But one of the most productive things was getting to talk to Derek Sublett, who is the government affairs for Norfolk Southern, and talking, hey, can you help us with these railroad broadband permits? And we actually got the 13th, got the big permit done that tomorrow. What I've been told by Spectrum, if people want to, in northern Scott County, want to check and see if they're eligible to be activated, they can dial 855-860-9068, and I'll put this on the website tomorrow once I confirm with Ben Ucelis. But there's 400 houses that once this permit was completed and the work that's been done in the last week, he says that they can call. Ben Ucelis from Charter told me that they can call it starting tomorrow to sign up for service. Yeah. But there's 2 more permits, and these affect about 60 or 70 houses, and they're working to get. And Derek Sublett said he would work to try to help us get that scheduled for work. So on other areas, I think there's a pole permit out on Neil Lane. I'm sorry, a pole permit on Oxford that's holding up just old Oxford, just a few houses there, and that's with Bluegrass Energy that they continue to work on that. And then Holton and Alton Way off of Lemons Mill, that subdivision right there. There's 5 poles right next to Lemons Mill Road that the property owners requested to wait until it dries out a little bit more to replace 5 poles, and they're going to try to get that done Monday or Tuesday if the property owner will allow. So that's another little pocket. Grayson Way. Magistrate Pratt's requested information about Grayson Way, and that's right. If you go off Neil Lane off Paynes Depot, well, Grayson Way comes off of Ironworks, and they kind of back up, but there's just a little bit of more work, and they anticipate Grayson Way being there's houses on Grayson Way that are activated, but the back of the street is not. They just had some more work they had to do, but. There was only, from what my understanding, once this big permit got activated, we were down to like 150 houses that still needed to be activated. So overall, I think we're very close to like 6,000 houses that have been activated, or 5,500 plus. I need to get a final number on that from them. I do not. I mentioned EMS. The sheriff's office, clerk's office, Sheriff Nettles, JR and I had a conference call after our most recent Tuesday update with DeVere Construction, and we asked if we could call the subcontractor for the glass and the framing for the windows. They said absolutely. We called that individual, Jeremy and JR and I did, and that representative pledged, y'all help me by the end of next week to be close to like 90% done with it. Right now, they're only 40% done with the windows, and that is completely holding everything up. So please know that we're making every effort. I wanted to include the sheriff in that call because just having law enforcement involved, it's always good. They got to drive through the county. And in the Justice Center, I don't know if you've driven by the Justice Center.
Coming out of the ground.
It's coming up out of the ground. We have some questions about some stormwater direction, but they're working on some solution there. But they are still working around that, and you can see the caissons being drilled and walls being poured, and that's moving forward. And I like the direction of it. And we get over the stormwater hurdle. I'll let you all know what the solution was. Question, Rick?
Comment really from back to the train derailment when we met. I thought another positive outcome from that, and if I know Mike like I think I know him, he's already working on it, but we brought up the railroad crossing on Rogers Gap, thank you, on Rogers Gap, because most of the time the EMS runs go down 25 and hit Rogers Gap. That's the straightest shot usually. But then when the train's sitting there, which is a lot, it's a big deterrent. So dispatch was there at that meeting, and the Derek is his name, right?
Brian Moore.
No, I mean.
Okay, Derek Sublett with.
Yeah, Derek brought up, he said, why don't you get one of them GoPro cameras and put it on a pole, and you know, send the signal back, which is a pretty good idea, I thought. And I think Mike was going to look into that. So
I think we ought to put it in the budget.
So that
something in the
dispatch
budget
would have live information,
Sure.
and they can redirect EMS or county fire or whoever, sheriff's department. They can be redirected at the dispatch.
So a big issue down there on Rogers Gap is trains will just sit at the crossing for extended periods of time to navigate train traffic going both ways. And what they mentioned, what Rick's mentioning is if you get a call to dispatch, then and it's in that area, that dispatch could look at that camera feed and see if there's a train there, because Mike, you said the detour is like 10 miles the other way.
Right.
So
the call last week added 27 minutes to the response time.
it's not good, is it?
No.
So we'll try to navigate that, and I appreciate Mike and Rick's bringing that up. I have no other new business. Any court member have any new business to bring to the?
I do want to touch base on the Justice Center, how they've torn the road up, and that's part of it. You got to stay on them to make sure they put it back halfway decent, to where not like they've done on the other end, where it's a speed bump everywhere and everybody's whatever. Because they'll do the bare minimum, and it'll be a speed bump, it'll be a hump, whatever.
You're talking about
Where they've had to cut through.
Well, we've done the utility work for water and sanitary.
They'll do the bare minimum if you don't stay on.
Well, I appreciate that advice, and we will make sure that once they're done cutting,
Sure,
that they make special attention to get it done. Because you're correct. If you go down here at the bottom at Water Street, and it never was put back right. Chad Wallace.
I've got two things. First of all, Rob and I are going to be meeting on March 5th about the RV ordinance. So that's our first initial meeting. So, we had a moratorium for 6 months, and just so you all have the timeline of where we're at. Hopefully this will move fast, but we'll be there on next week. Second, Judge, I would like for...
And there's public, through the Planning Commission, and there's public input on that committee and participation. So very good. I think it's good.
Yeah. Second thing is I'd like to get at some workshop, it doesn't have to be next week, an update from the water company about where our long-term plan is for water supply, where we are on some current projects, we've got the sewer lines going north to 25, and just updates on all that kind of stuff where we're involved, but they're the one that are managing it. So
I'll reach out to Chase Azevedo and ask for an update.
I agree, because I asked about that north sewer line, and I never heard back from Chase or anybody about where it's at.
You didn't. I don't think you sent me an email.
No, I did. We sent it to Chase.
And then I forwarded it to Chase.
But nobody ever responded. So
okay,
because we got that
follow
grant
up
from Andy Barr's office for 5.
Well, I can tell everybody, that Chase and his team have been working through with FEMA and it is just a very slow process. And but I'd like Chase, like what Chad's saying, to come and give you all an update firsthand.
Yeah, well, and our rates, the rates went up, and I've gotten calls, and people want to know why my rates up, and so the more feedback, information we get, the more we'll know.
Yeah, David.
I was going to ask about this and decided not to since you brought it up. Also, the storage thing and everything that's going on over on the other side of town. I haven't heard anything about that at all.
No, I'll ask him to give all things GMWSS.
I'd just like to say I saw on social media, I think social media, because I didn't see it on Facebook, I saw that the fire department is doing a leadership class, which I think is amazing. They should get kudos for that. So leadership and growing your own is probably important. So we have a big focus on our company, and so I think it's good that y'all are doing that. So how many people are in that class?
We got 9.
9? Who's putting it on?
One of our captains, Captain Barnett, basically organized the whole thing and is kind of leading the charge on it. So he's done a great job.
Yeah, that's cool. So I saw a picture, I think, today of it. Somebody was excited about it.
Bringing in outside speakers here and there, and actually Judge Copeland came and spoke today. So
big time.
VIP day.
It's only going to get better for me.
But here's a piece of feedback from you for you all that I always want to ask employees. What can we do to help you do your job? And improve. Whatever services you provide, and one of the pieces, the feedback remark from one of the individuals at the class was, they really appreciate when we are present at events or training. They look. I went out last year to the high ropes training, and they just think it. And then even being at the parade. Just the support for what they do and acknowledgement by your presence. So I would encourage all of you to reach out to John. We're going to have a training class coming up for 14 weeks. I think that's a great opportunity this spring, early summer, for us to just go and watch what they do at a class or some training, vehicle extraction or whatever it might be. I would encourage all of you, because that was a point that was shared. So
if you want to come to any of the schools, we see them all the time, so you can come see them in action.
Yeah. Any other new business from court members, and then any new business from anyone or public comment from anyone here at our audience?
I was too curious, Wayne. Machines tear the fabric into component fibers, then they're aligned in a process called carding. And then that recycled material is used to make polyester clothing and cleaning cloths and industrial blankets.
So you can buy a Sears Separate.
Thank you, Stacy. So is there any public comment or comment from any staff members? If not, then we will have a workshop next week. We do have I think a ribbon cutting for the disc golf next Friday, so we'll talk about that. If there's no other business, then is there a motion to adjourn? Motion. Second, Rob Jones. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.